Today, you're going to learn how to make a table that serves as an ironing board, a desk and a dining table, all of that using just one power tool. Seriously, this is one of the projects I'm most proud to have made. Of everything you've seen me do here on Manual of the World over the past 17 years, I don't know why I only decided to teach you how to make it now. In 2008, I married Mari and we moved into a 35 square meter apartment about the size of this room where we're recording. If you've been following the channel since the beginning, that's where there was that little granite counter where I used to do the experiments. The apartment was so small that there wasn't even room for a table. If we left the table in the middle of the living room with no dining room, we couldn't watch television since the table blocked it. One day, at my dad's house, I found some leftover wood. Mari and I decided to get our hands dirty and build a table ourselves. I did a lot of research to see if there was a model of a folding table, and I found something called a gate-leg table, which is a table with legs shaped kind of like a gate. That's exactly what this small table does. It has side flaps that you can leave open or closed, and underneath there are legs with hinges, like a gate, so you can support the flap. We built small tables from leftover wood and used them for many years. Let's go! This is a really simple project. You're going to learn how to make it now, and it practically doesn't require any tools. The only power tool you'll need is a screwdriver. If you don't even have a screwdriver, you can use a regular drill to make the holes for the screws, then tighten everything with a flathead or Phillips screwdriver. We make this furniture here using a sheet of wood and a screwdriver. I'm about to name it Apartment Carpentry because it's cheap and you can customize it to the size you need. And yes, you can do it inside an apartment, like I've done many times, spending very little. But before you get your hands dirty or start working with wood, there's something really cool I want to tell you. This here is the first of 8 projects that will launch the Manual Maker website, which is already live at manualmaker.com. The idea is that there you'll have access to all these details, drawings, files, and measurements of the projects we're making on Manual. But that's not all. This site is meant to serve as a meeting point, a reference for the maker community. So, you who's watching right now, have thought of something like this, a cool piece of furniture. Did you invent something to print on a 3D printer or come up with a project using Arduino? Did you develop a cool experiment for a science fair? Did you invent an object that can explain a physics concept? You can go to the website, sign up, and publish your project yourself. It's a way to share with people the work you've done. This will not only encourage other people to build cool projects as well, it can also help them improve the project you made, and that way everyone grows together. It's really cool. These first 8 projects that I chose are super interesting. It's going to be a series of videos on the channel, sponsored by Petrobras and the federal government, and we're really happy about that, because Petrobras aims to make technology more accessible in everyday life. It believes in the potential of Brazilians to study, work hard, and invent things to solve any challenge. As history is full of such moments, in these videos the goal is to challenge you to get involved, to put into practice knowledge of science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and arts. Now we can see that what we learn in school is valuable in real life. Let's go! If you want to learn how to make cool things, or if you build something and want to share it with the world, don't forget to check out our website, manualmaker.com. Let's build this table. It's going to look really cool. The table will be made of plywood, which is this sheet of wood right here. It's made up of several thinner sheets that are glued together. You can already buy plywood pre-cut, okay? So you order the plywood in the measurements we're providing on the Manual Maker website. Here are 10 pieces of plywood that we've already had cut, and the advantage is that they come out perfect. With the project all set, it's pretty much just assembling. You won't need to cut the wood, okay? For the movable legs, we're going to use 2 strips of a wood called Kumaru. That's just because we had some left over at Manual do Mundo and want to use it. You can use strips of whatever you want, pine, eucalyptus, or even ask to have the strip cut to this size from the plywood itself. You'll just need 10 hinges, 2 types of screws, a little bit of felt to put underneath, glue, and our screwdriver. The screw sizes and the drill bits I'll use are all on the Manual Maker website, okay? The first step here is the letter U with 3 identical pieces. All right? One goes on top while the other 2 act as legs. so we'll need to screw them together. And there's a very important detail, which is how we're going to drill the hole in the wood to insert the screw. So I drew a super screw here. This screw has two different diameters. Okay? One is the thinner part, which is inside the thread. Okay? It's the thinnest part of the screw. So when you measure it, you use the caliper tool on this smaller part of the thread. If you don't know how to use a caliper, watch our instructional video. Even a cheap plastic one is worth having. They're great for measuring drill bits and similar items. And the other measurement of the screw is the one on the outside of the thread. It's a little larger, usually about 1 millimeter more in difference. On this screw I'm using, the internal measurement is 3.5 millimeters and the external measurement of the thread is 4.5 millimeters. How do I make a hole to put a screw like this in? I have a joint here where I'm going to use the screw. So first I need a drill bit that matches the smaller measurement, okay? A 3.5 millimeter drill bit. Now I'll make a hole here, watch. With the two pieces of wood together, this hole will be the length of the screw or a little longer, and I drill both pieces of wood at once. At this moment, the pieces of wood have to be perfectly aligned because you can't make this hole with the wood crooked, otherwise the screw will go in crooked. After you've made this hole, you're going to take it and use the larger size, 4.5 millimeters, to make a hole only in the top piece of wood. So in the end, we'll have a larger hole here with a diameter of 4.5 millimeters and a smaller hole underneath with a diameter of 3.5 millimeters. Why is there's this difference? When I put in the screw, I don't want it to thread into the top piece of wood. It has to go straight through the top piece. You could even make a larger hole about 5 millimeters here. It goes straight through and fastens into the bottom piece of wood. When it gets to the end, the screw has a head here. Okay? When it gets to the end, it will pull the bottom piece of wood and join the two pieces together at the same time. What holds the screw to the top piece of wood is its head, not the thread. If you don't do this and leave the top hole tight while the screw threads in, you know what will happen? The moment the head of the screw reaches the end, the pieces of wood won't touch each other. There will always be a gap since the screw is already stuck in the top piece of wood. Anyway, now let's mark the spot where we're going to drill. One of these pieces here will be the tabletop, okay? I want to pick a really nice, smooth one like this. For example, I don't want this flaw or this other brown spot to be on top. I think it's good here. All right, so the drawings I'm gonna make have to be on the back part, okay? That's where I can draw on it. That way I won't need to sand it to hide my work. The goal is to have a piece like this, okay? So we need to decide where the screws will go. I'm going to use another small board from the project here because it has exactly the same thickness as the other one. So it helps me mark it. What is the space that the piece will occupy? Where will the meeting point between the two be? I know that the other piece of wood will fit into this little strip here, so hole will necessarily go in the middle. Since my wood is 30, I'll place it at 15. It looks better here with the square. Since the wood is 18 millimeters thick, I know that the middle here is at 9 millimeters. The other two screws should be close, but not too close to the edge, otherwise it won't work. So I'll move them in by 2.5 centimeters. Holes are set. We just do the same thing on the other side, okay? Do everything at once, because if the work is repetitive, it's better for you to get the hang of it and do everything quickly rather than doing it all over again, getting the tools and so on. 15, back 27.5. Now I get it. Now we already have markings for 6 holes, 3 on each side, and we're gonna keep marking. It's crucial to prepare before drilling wood, since once you make a hole, you can't undo it. If you make a mistake, it will be a lot of work to fix it. So let's do everything right. I'm going to mark the hinge holes now. So this is the tabletop. We're looking at it from underneath, and these hinges here are for making those table wings, okay? I'm just going to use this piece of wood for support. This isn't the one that will stay here. A nearly identical piece will, but this one doesn't fit on the table. But let's put it here just to get an idea. The hinge needs to be centered exactly between the two pieces of wood. So I have to line it up precisely with the hinge's axis. And the space I have to leave here, I can set it now. I'll leave 1 centimeter. Let's measure. To make sure it stays aligned, I'll even tape it here with masking tape because otherwise I might mark it crooked. And now what do? I draw around where the hinge will go, including the holes. On the other side, it's exactly the same thing, okay? There are 3 hinges on each side, so I need to put the middle one here. But I can't just eyeball it. I mean, I could eyeball it, but let's do it right, okay? The piece is 800 millimeters long. The hinge is 88 inches, so the middle will be 400, right? Half of 800 is 400. Since it's 88 divided by 2, that's 44, so that's how it should be. One side will line up at 444. Look, it worked perfectly. The 40 ended up right in the middle, right in the hinge's center hole. Same thing on the other side here, because we're going to have 3 hinges on each side. This piece here is already fully marked. One thing I recommend you do, if it's your first time working with wood, is to name the pieces. So I'm going to stick some tape here, right on top of the tape, because I've already made the mistake of writing directly on the wood, and it never comes off. The furniture still has the writing on it to this day. So this one here is the bottom side of the top. I'm also going to take the opportunity to mark the holes on the side, okay? On this piece here, on the inside, you can see that it's screwed into this bracket. And there are still 2 hinges for this piece here. Let's mark everything. One of the very few things I'm going to do differently on the new table is that this one has 2 legs on each side, okay? So I'm calling this here a leg. On the new one, I'm going to make just 1 leg, but it'll go in the middle. The advantage is simpler construction. The table uses less material and is lighter. And when 4 people sit down, this here won't hit their knees because it'll be in the middle, not at the ends. This is the table's central brace. Where does it go? So the tabletop is here and the other leg is over there, right? This keeps the table from opening. I'll leave 26 centimeters from the top, measuring along the side. I'm using a school ruler just to show that you can do it with a school ruler. It doesn't have to be a steel or carpenter's ruler. I know the distance. Now I need to know if it goes more this way or that way. I need to align it exactly in the center here and draw its outline down here. I'll do it on the board so it's clear for everyone. So we never make a mistake when aligning one piece of wood with another, okay? So look, I've already made that line over there. I know that here I have 260 millimeters in length, okay? That's the distance I have to align this board, okay? It's going to sit right up against that line. The thing is, I have to place it exactly in the middle here. So let's draw it right in the center. I'm going to exaggerate the drawing, okay? Just to make it clearer. The thickness of this board is 18 millimeters in. The total length of the wood is 300. So 300 minus 18 is 282. That's what I have left. That's the total length here, but I need to divide it by 2 since each side gets half. 141 millimeters here. Then the board takes up 18. And I have 141 millimeters on the other side. And that way I know exactly how to center this wood here. 141 on each side. If you're unsure about these numbers, sketch them on paper first. Make sure you understand what you're doing so you don't misalign the furniture. It's very important that we do everything perfectly aligned so the furniture doesn't end up crooked. I've marked the top on both sides. I don't need to measure the end anymore, okay? I bring the piece itself here and mark it. Look how cool. I have exactly the rectangle where the piece will fit. And now I can draw the 2 holes that I'm going to make to attach one piece to the other. Go 2 centimeters from the side, right in the middle. As I said, let's repeat everything on the other side now, so I don't forget and have to relearn everything. No, let's go. One more thing I need to mark is this hole on the side, which really helps when carrying the table. I went to measure the height of this hole, and something great I did 17 years ago, and I didn't even remember, look at the height of the hole in relation to my hand. It's a little below the tips of my fingers. I'd say about 5 to 10 centimeters below. That's great, because when it's time to carry the table, I just lower myself a bit, lift it, and I'm in a good position. If the hole were higher, I'd have to lift it with my arm like this, and that would be really uncomfortable. Not here. Look, my arm is stretched out and I'm lifting the table. Ideally, make this hole lower. It starts 15 centimeters down and 15 centimeters over, okay? I'm drawing a line at 15 centimeters, just like before. It's good to always draw a line so we have a clear idea of where things are aligned. From here to here is 15 centimeters or 150 millimeters. The height of the hole is 25 millimeters, 2.5 centimeters and its distance from each edge is 10 centimeters or 100 millimeters. Cabeza. I'm giving both measurements so you can get used to centimeters and millimeters, okay? Is your mind converting automatically? So to sum up, the hole here in the middle is a rectangle that measures 25 millimeters by 100 millimeters. The ideal thing here would be to use a wood drill bit. The wood drill bit has this little tip here. See, it has a flat base and a small point. This is great for aligning the hole, but I don't have a 3.5 drill bit, which I need. So I'm going to use another one, which is a more generic drill bit. You can buy it as a drill bit for steel or something like that. It works really well on wood, but it's a little trickier to align. Pay close attention when placing the drill bit tip precisely where you want it. If you're buying your first drill bit, I suggest this steel one since it's less likely to get damaged. It works for more uses. I'm putting the bit in the screwdriver. This tool is both a screwdriver and a drill, but I have to select when I want to drill. Look, I set it to drill mode to make the hole. Ideally, you should put some protection under the wood so that when the bit comes out the other side, it doesn't go into empty space. That breaks the wood. So we've already set aside a sacrificial board here, a kind of cutting board we use at Manual do Mundo, which is generic. It takes a beating and usually stays under the counter. Ideally used to one on each side. This way, the wood will stay aligned with good support. I can use wood from the project itself, no problem. Ideally, the sacrificial board would be another leftover piece from the project itself. So let's go. I'm going to drill those 3 holes, the main joints for the table, for the screws that go here. Thinking about my drawing on the board, it's the narrower hole, the slimmer part of the screw. One important thing here, if I drill crooked like this or like that, it's going to be a huge problem. The screw will go in crooked. It might even come out of the wood on the other side. So I have to try to be as aligned and straight as possible. Look closely. Take it easy. Usually, screwdrivers or even drills have a speed control. So you start drilling slowly, okay?
After it comes out, remove it. It looks nice. Everything's fine here.
Let's take a look at the holes. At this point, it might be worth sanding a little because another piece of wood will go here. If you leave burrs, wood sticking out where another piece rests on top, it won't fit properly. The leftover wood gets in the way. Next, I'll make the hinge holes. I still need to measure the screw for this. If this is your first time, you'll need to buy the screw and measure it or get its exact size so you can buy matching drill bits. But I recommend that you have a small drill bit kit that starts at least at size 2 and goes up to 5. Okay, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, up to 5. The inner part of the screw measured 3.5, which coincidentally is the same as the other screw. This little screw I'm going to use here on the hinges is extremely short. Take a look. It's made so it doesn't go through the thickness of a board. One thing you'll notice is that the drill bits go through the tabletop, so we'll have small holes on top of the table. There will be, but we'll fix that later with filler, okay? That's easier than getting the screw depth first. Now comes the hardest part. Everything I've done so far was with the 3.5mm drill bit, but now I need to drill a hole big enough to fit my hand through. I can't do that with such a thin drill bit. I'm going to use this flat 25mm drill bit. This bit makes a huge hole, okay? A hole with a diameter of 25mm, which is exactly what I need. How am I going to line up this drill bit with the spot I want to make here? The bit has a little tip, okay? So I'm going to line up this little tip with the center of the slot I need. I'm nearly through the hole, but now there's danger ahead. If I drill all the way through forcefully, it will break the wood on the other side. So go gently, okay? Since the hole has broken through, I should flip the wood and finish drilling from the other side. Look at that finish, nice and neat, because this is the part that's going to be on the outside. These 2 holes here can't be lifted with 2 fingers like a bowling ball. How do we make the cut here to create the space to fit 4 fingers. If you have all the woodworking tools, you can use a jigsaw. That's the saw I was using in the picture I took earlier. I first made this piece of furniture in 2008, but I promised that this would be the only power tool we'd use. So I'm gonna keep making more holes until I open up a big enough gap to fit my hand in. A small piece of wood is stuck, but I'll remove it with a utility knife, no problem. Exactly the same thing now on the other side of the table. The hole ended up with several small ridges. You can leave them, but the edges are very sharp and could hurt your hand. You'll need to do some finishing. How much depends on the time you're willing to spend. You could make it completely smooth. I'm going to remove a bit with the utility knife and a bit with sandpaper. The cool thing about plywood is that it's a soft wood, so you can easily trim it with a utility knife. Then I'll try 150 grit sandpaper to see if it feels right. Everything's good here. The finish looks nice and doesn't hurt my hand. Pretty fancy, right? I put in a lot of effort and my shirt already has marks. Now let's make the secondary holes. Those holes meant for actually putting in the screw threads. Now I'll start assembling the pieces, okay? This is the tabletop and this is the desk side. One very important thing is that the tabletop goes on top of the side. So if we look closely here, the tabletop fits on top of the side. So these two pieces stay square. In other words, so that this here is exactly 90 degrees and doesn't end up like this or with the legs sticking out, I need to place something perfectly square in the center with precise 90-degree angles. And I can use the pieces from my own project because they were cut with a very precise saw. So I just fit this board here and it'll serve as a square for me. One thing that can help you attach one piece of wood to another is simply to use some masking tape, okay? Don't be ashamed to do that. Another thing that helps is using both hands here, so you don't have to hold everything by yourself. Let's go. I'm gonna make a single hole. I'm going to use a hole that's already made here in this first piece of wood, but I'm going to continue drilling it through with a 3.5 drill bit. It's still that narrower hole, okay? For me to make this first hole, everything must be perfectly aligned. Let's get it right. Lucas, the alignment needs to be perfect, okay? What do I do now? It may seem pointless, but here's the thing. I'll loosen everything, and now that there's a hole through both pieces of wood, I can get ready. Remember my drawing back there? One hole was narrower and the other was wider. I've already made the narrow one. Now I'm going to make the wider one so the screw can go through the first piece of wood easily, okay? Without getting stuck in this one. The screw thread fits in here with slight resistance, but that's fine. It won't catch on this part. And now what I'm going to do is put everything back together and drill the part that was missing. Here on the screwdriver, I'm going to put this piece here. This is a bit, okay? It's like the tip of a Phillips screwdriver. I'm going to switch here to screwdriver A20. I'll set it to 4. Here's a tip for screws. Rub a little paraffin on by running the screw over a candle. This lubricates its path. It will go in more easily, and there's less risk of it splitting the wood as it goes in. And like I told you guys, it's good for us to do repetitive tasks in a series, right? There are a lot of screws I'm going to use here, so I coat them all in paraffin to make it easier. And one last thing I was forgetting is the finishing on the screw hole. If I put the screw here and it goes all the way in, its head won't be able to go into the wood. There will be metal sticking out right on the tabletop. Imagine the hole. When it's done, we'll need to make a notch here, a chamfer, so the screw head can fit in properly. I use a tool called a countersink for that. It can be like this without the drill bit at the tip, but there's a type that already comes with the drill bit. The problem with the one that already comes with the drill bit is that I don't have it in the size I'd use. I could use a 4 or 5 drill bit that already comes with the countersink. At the end, when you're finishing drilling, it already makes this bevel. So I'm going to use this other one here. It'll be much easier for you to find a drill bit that already comes with the countersink, okay? Of course, you can do this finishing with a utility knife, improvise a bit, but this really helps a lot. Put our screw exactly in that position we made at the beginning. Now, I have both pieces held together by one screw, but there are still 2 other holes. The good thing is that this first screw holds both pieces really well and makes it easier for me to drill the others. This helps with alignment. cucina. You could drill all 3 holes at once, but they might all end up slightly misaligned. When you screw it in, you might notice the wood pieces don't fit perfectly together. The first time, especially with the first screw, do everything properly. Then you can improvise more. Now things start to get a bit repetitive. I'm going to make the narrower holes, then I'll unscrew it, and now I'll make the wider holes, those 4.5 millimeter holes. Next, I'm going to use the countersink to open up the hole for the screw head, and finally it's time to apply the glue. I'm using the super strong wood glue we test on the world's tallest popsicle stick tower. Okay? You can use regular white school glue, but ideally you should use white wood glue because it's stronger. Its active ingredient is more concentrated.
Don't use too much glue. A line like this is enough. I might already be using too much.
One key thing to know is that ideally glue, not screws, holds furniture together. If you depend on the screw to hold the furniture together, it won't last. It will loosen over time. The furniture we made in 2008 is still perfect after 17 years. No loose parts even in 2025. Now the fun begins. The furniture will come to life and there's no turning back. You just have to put in the screws. There's no big secret because the hole is already made. A little bit of glue spilled out here. Ideally, you should clean it up, okay? Because sanding the glue later is terrible. So just give it a general wipe here, a good clean, so nothing is left over here, and do the inside as well. If everything went well, this should already be really secure. It's super firm. Let's put on the other leg, the other side of the table. And there's no secret to it. Just do exactly what I did here. A great thing about assembling this furniture is that adding pieces makes everything fit together more easily. Because everything is already squared up, everything is just right. But at the same time, you're also testing if your measurements and alignments were correct. In this case, it looks like they are. Think of this as the letter A. We'll add the middle stroke here, okay? It needs to be very well aligned, and a pretty primitive technique I'm going to use here is to try putting something underneath. Something that's exactly the height I need so the wood stays in the right position. This is my drawing. It's going to fit exactly on top of the drawing. Did it work? Wow, it's perfect. The wood is in position. Now the plan is to make the holes just like I did up here. There's a challenge with the glue at this point. If I put glue here on top of the wood and then try to fit it later, it's going to make a huge mess. So I'm going to do something else that also makes a bit of a mess, but a little less, which is to put the glue directly on the furniture here, and then I'll bring the wood over. I don't need a lot of glue, so it won't drip. This goes on the bottom first. And then I fit both of them together at the same time. There we go. It's starting to look good, huh? Look, I don't know if you noticed, but if instead of putting this brace here vertically, we put it horizontally, you'd already have a kind of sideboard, a rack, a shelf. Actually, when we made that table back in 2008, there was a matching piece of furniture, which I don't even know where it ended up. That was exactly a rack to put the digital versatile disc player under the television. What you learn here will help you make other furniture pieces. This is the foundation for various types. Let's make the gate leg. There are 2 per side, shaped like an F, right? There are 2 pieces of wood here horizontally and 1 vertically. It's basically this design here. We're leaving all the measurements in the maker manual, and there's no big secret to attaching this piece of wood to that one. We're going to use the same method as always, but this time with a different screw, which I forgot to mention at the beginning. But again, that's not a problem because the materials list is there at manualmaker.com. To align the wood, I'll always use the other pieces that are already here. Okay? That keeps everything at 90 degrees. I'll use the Kumaru strip to mark its position relative to the small piece of plywood. I place the holes in the center, about 2 centimeters from the edge. These measurements are also on the Manual Maker website. I'm making a 3mm hole to fit the smallest screw I'll use. I only need to measure 1 piece of wood, then use it as a guide to drill holes in the others. Here's your biggest risk. finished. What can go most wrong at this moment is that these two pieces of wood here end up crooked, okay? They get misaligned. To avoid that, always use a very straight piece of wood as a reference when screwing it in. You can see that it's perfect here, okay? Consider these heights carefully, especially this height, so that the leg doesn't show when the table is closed. And also, so it doesn't hit the legs of whoever is eating or studying at the table. At the end of these Fs, we're going to put hinges, but pay close attention to the positioning, okay? Kumaru is at the back, and this little bulge of the latch has a more protruding part, which will face forward. I fit the hinge in this position, make sure it's well aligned, and mark the holes. There's no secret, just drill in the center of the markings and screw it in. Look, our Fs with the latches here. Let's attach this under the table. This leg needs to be attached here on the side of the table, okay? Whether it will be more inward or outward, you can decide. I think it's better to have it more outward, so the leg reaches farther when we open it. So what do I have to do? I'm going to roughly mark the position I want to set here. 4 centimeters away, so it stays a little inside the table, just to give it a margin. And then I draw a line to align this hinge with that one, okay? Why? What's the big risk here? If you put it crooked, like this for example, then when you open it, it will open all wrong. So, since everything has already been done in an extremely aligned way, I'm going to draw this line. And from this line, I'll mark the holes for the hinge. Now, when marking, I'm going to align the hinge here so it fits perfectly, and I'm only going to mark the top, okay? I'm not even going to mark the bottom yet. Now, when it's time to drill, there's something important that I could have done before, should have done before, but didn't, which is this. The screw we use to attach the hinge is extremely short. We bought it in a size that doesn't go all the way through the wood, okay? It won't go through the wood, so there's no reason for the drill bit or the hole we make to go all the way through. It only needs to go in up to a certain depth. To make sure I don't go past that point with the drill bit, I'm going to create a little workaround here, okay? I'll put the screw next to the drill bit and wrap this tape here. I'll know that when I reach the tape, that's when I should stop drilling. Look, if I don't do this, this could happen. See, the drill will go through the wood and it can break the wood on the other side. That's what happened down here. See, it didn't turn out well. With the first hinge attached, I'll mark and drill for the second. If I don't do this, the two will end up slightly misaligned. It's important to do these steps properly, one after the other. I'm telling you this because if you skip steps and mark everything first before drilling and screwing, it'll end up crooked. Ah, how nice. So, look, on the other side, it's exactly the same thing. Now all that's left are the tops, the table wings, the holes in the hinges. We already did that at the beginning. Now there's a recess that needs to be made in the wood, because if you look at the hinge like this, you'll notice that even on its flat part, there's a little bulge downward. That small bulge will misalign it here and it won't look good. So I need to take the spot I marked for the hinge and make a slight recess with a utility knife, about 1 millimeter deep. This recess is a 4 millimeter wide, 1 millimeter deep strip. There's no secret to it. Next, we can go outside and screw in all the hinges here. Next step. Now we're making an extremely smooth and clean surface, okay? If you're going to do this at home, I recommend doing it on the floor. If you don't have a very flat table, choose the flattest spot on the floor you can find, because when we put this sheet here, it can't be misaligned. The table will copy the alignment of whatever is underneath. Let me see which side looks better. Let me put it like this. Look how interesting. It doesn't want to touch. It doesn't want to align exactly because of that part, that little bulge I just mentioned. So I'm going to lift this part up a little so it can touch. But later, there's no way around it. We'll have to make that little groove, that opening with the utility knife as well. Ideally, these two pieces of wood should touch in this position, okay? In reality, a problem could arise if one piece of wood scrapes against another when opening or closing it. So I need to put a spacer here. I cut some thin pieces of cardboard from a shoebox I had. I'll place them between the two pieces of wood to keep the spacing even from start to finish. To keep the wood from getting out of alignment, I'm going to bring it as close as possible, line it up and secure it with tape. Now I can mark the hinges. Azinka. You know the sequence mark, remove it, make holes, put it back, screw it in. Then repeat on the other side. I think we have the furniture pretty much ready. There's a detail in the design that I wanted to show you here. When we designed this table, one of the things we were careful about was making sure that the tip of this leg never touches the hinge, okay? Because it has to slide here, so it needs to go through this gap. Ideally, this leg would be even longer so that it could reach a bit farther, closer to the edge of the table. But it's fine like this, it will support the edge of the table well. I couldn't make it longer because otherwise it would risk getting too close to this hinge, okay? We wanted to keep this safety margin here. So that's it. Everything was very well thought out. But hold on, I forgot something. Since our floor is made of wood blocks, I risk scratching it. If you install it in a kitchen with tile or porcelain, the risk is much lower. So I'm going to put some little felt stickers here so these legs can slide on the floor without scratching it. Now, this one is finally our folding table, known in English as a gate leg table. Perfectly straight. Two finishing touches remain. First, cover these small holes, okay? There are a bunch of little screw holes and screw heads showing that we can cover with wood filler. When you buy the filler, it already comes white or with a preset wood color, which isn't ideal, because it will never match the wood we have. It will always look a little different. So what we do here at Manual do Mundo is mix in a bit of paint. It can even be school paint, just to get a closer color match. Use the same wood you're working with, fill the holes, then sand. If you haven't worked with wood before and just need it once, I use regular wall putty, which also works. It's not ideal, but you don't have to buy wood filler. And then you'll need to apply something to protect the wood, which could be a varnish, a stain, or a sealer. Varnish is traditional and forms a thin plastic layer over the wood. Stain is a type of varnish that penetrates deeply into the wood, but it's mostly used for outdoor areas. It ends up a bit oily. I don't like using stain for indoor items you'll touch since it smells strong. I don't think it's a good idea. And the sealer is related to varnish. It's used to penetrate deeply into the wood and fill the pores. In the manual, we mainly use sealer, either water-based or solvent-based. The water-based sealer is preferred for its minimal odor, so chef with Paul. We used water-based sealer on these walls because other types would have left a strong smell we couldn't manage. But I think it gets kind of rubbery. If you want a smoother texture that's easier to sand, use the solvent-based sealer. If you skip all that, it won't turn out well, because if you spill even a drop of anything here, it's going to stain the wood, and even worse, this part here is in contact with the floor. So over time, if someone spills something or if you wipe it and water gets in, the plywood will swell. That happened to my little table too. Mine was medium density fiberboard, not plywood, and it swells even more. You can see down here, it formed something awful. It looks like an elephant's foot on the furniture. I'll try to fix this, and if it works, I'll make a video about it, okay? I didn't do these paintings on the table, but I think they look really cool. So this is the first of our 8 special projects that we're doing to launch the website manualmaker.com. If you want to teach someone else how to make something cool, you've already share it with the world, okay, just go to manualmaker.com. Sponsored by Petrobras.